Okay, got about 3/4 of you who are looking up, so I assume you've completed your goals. So, your goals do not make your mission statement. The theme of the goals is kind of what makes a mission statement. So what I would like you to do is to turn to a neighbor next to you, hand them your goals, and they are going to write on the same paper your mission statement. Okay? So you're going to pass it to the other person, and they're going to encapsulate the goals into a mission statement, back and forth. You want a nice one-sentence, kind of pithy statement. To be the preeminent neuro-oncologist in the world. To cure diabetes. To come up with a unique treatment for the prevention of toenail fungus. To develop a new surgical technique taking out the appendix without perforating the skin. What is the theme of the goals of that person? To ascend the ranks at Johns Hopkins to become a world-renowned expert. How would you encapsulate what that person wrote down in their 5 goals into a mission statement? So go ahead and try to write that person's mission statement.
Can you give some more examples of a personal mission statement? I'm not sure if that's what it looks like. List it, like name a few so we can get to
I was just giving them. Okay. To become the preeminent neuro-oncologist in the world. To develop new techniques for treatment of this particular disease. To be the most sought-after physician for treatment of lymphoma, to cure cancer, to solve the world's problems with water shortage, to become president of the United States. So you're going to try to get a statement for that person that sort of rounds out what they're trying to be. What's their mission here based on their goals? So work on that for a minute. Because I'm not satisfied with this. We're going to get people off of this. When you are done, you want to pass it to your partner and get feedback back and forth between the two of you. Did you get it? Are you close? I can work with this. It's a start. It's not a start. No way. That wasn't it at all. Feedback. Discussion. I want you to leave here with the beginnings of a mission statement for your main goals in the next 5 years. Exchange. There you go. All right, so look it over. See what fits. If you want to massage it a little bit yourself, go ahead. They're going to tell you what your purpose is here. Go ahead and read yours. See whether you like it or not, whether it's close. If you don't like it, sort of edit it. Give some feedback. Thank you very much. It's working. It's not working. What do you get from their goals as far as their mission here? many people have not yet exchanged? All right, it's time. I'm going to work on it. Coming together. All right, so I've given this seminar about 10 times. Some people find that this part is the most valuable thing, to sort of get a sense of a mission statement that they can then prioritize to that mission statement. You know, when it's time to say yes or no to something that's offered to you, it's a lot easier if you could say, well, this is my mission, and this does or does not comport with that mission. I can make a decision now, yes or no, for what I'm most trying to do. So obviously Covey says, Stephen Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, says this is the type of thing that you work on for months. You've just spent about 10 minutes doing it. So obviously it wasn't intended for it to be your final mission statement, but it is worthwhile to have to sort of set the stage and set the goals and to create a general mission statement. So what do you do with your mission statement? So what I'd like you to do is build on this first pass that was given to you by your partner and work it, post it somewhere where you do your work, or if it's at home about your home life, post it, revise it, share it with other people, and then applying it. Applying it is time management. It's like, no, I'm not going to do that because that is not critical to my mission here, or I'm going to do this as part of my relaxation, etc. But the things that I want to apply time to are the mission-centric, important things in my life. So the way Covey describes it is put first things first. So begin with the end in mind is to have a mission statement, what the end is, and then putting first things first is prioritization. It's putting emphasis and time to those things that are the most important, the first things. So apply the energy to the mission, and he talks about the time management matrix. And this is the time management matrix that I'm told was actually originally from Teddy Roosevelt, but that Covey organized in terms of urgent, not urgent, important, and not important. What Covey says is that we spend a lot of time here in urgent and important. That is, you know, the patient's crashing, go to the bedside, take care of that patient, or take care of the pressing problems that, you know, there's a sudden gap in funding and this person's possibly going to leave, etc. These are urgent, important things that we have to take care of, clearly. But where does the mission-centric stuff lie? Quadrant 2. It's important but not urgent because it's the 5-year stuff. It's the 10-year stuff. It's the career stuff. It's the family stuff. And what Covey says that we do not do, but we should be doing, is scheduling time in our calendar for this. Because if you don't schedule the time for this, you end up getting these urgent things that fill your calendar, and then you start having non-important urgent things. You know, chairman calls you to a meeting on this, you know, this issue, you know, pressing matter, popular activity interruptions. And then there are the things that are not important and not urgent, which are, you know, surfing the web, etc., that we don't want to be doing. So what Covey says is take your calendar, take control of it, and block time where you set out 2 to 4 hours here, write the grant. 2 to 4 hours, work on the book. What is your big ticket items? You know, the big important but not urgent things. The development of new ideas for a new grant, or the mentoring of colleagues, if that's what your mission is. But don't just let your calendar get filled up by this stuff. Block the time. And that's exactly what Gretchen Rubin says. I'm going to give you an example of what happens if you don't. If you don't put in your calendar the big ticket items, here's what's going to happen. Important client. Exercise. He's got all these other big items that he has to fit in that he can't fit in. You see he's got 6 other items and they're overflowing. As you can see, he's gotten all of the big rocks in. So the lesson that Covey tries to make with this video really is that you got to schedule the big things that are important to you, but maybe not urgent, first and foremost. And fill your calendar with time that you've blocked off, which is inviolate. And that's why I say take control of your calendar as opposed to having other people put in the little rocks. The non-important things were the tiny little rocks that aren't the big ticket items. And I got this. This is one of the chapters from Gretchen Rubin's book. And it's so true for me, at least. If it's on the calendar, it happens. If it's not on the calendar, it may not happen. So you got to get this stuff on the calendar. And this is from Flannery O'Connor, one of the great authors, who says, I'm a full believer in writing habits. You may be able to do without them if you have genius, but most of us only have the talent, and this is simply something that has to be assisted all the time by physical and mental habits, or it dries up and blows away. Of course, you have to make your habits in this conform to what you can do. I write only about 2 hours every day because that's all the energy I have. But I don't let anything interfere with those 2 hours at the same time, at the same place. He creates a habit in his schedule. This is what I'm going to be doing. And that is sort of the lesson from Gretchen Rubin, is that you put in your calendar, or you have a reminder to yourself, this is what I'm going to be doing on your mobile device, create those habits, and then make the choices. It's been said, research says that if you do something every day for 21 days, you will make it a habit that becomes second nature. This is a magic number. Unfortunately, for those who are British, 66 days. Don't ask me why. And what she says is what you do every day matters. For me, every day I write. I will sit down and write every day because I know that that's the thing that gets my productivity up for my academic work as well as the things I do outside of Hopkins. This is just a quick cartoon about people complaining about how busy they are. You can be busy, but doing the right things. It's okay to be busy all the time, but doing the right things. So, bottom line, block out quadrant 2 time first, create some habits. Covey disagrees. He doesn't think you should have a daily to-do list because he says that you're in the thick of thin things. By that he means mundane things, drop off the mail, pick up the laundry, wash my hair, whatever it might be. On a daily list, he says that you should be scheduling with a greater sense to the schedule, weekly or monthly. What do you hope to do in that grant this week? What do you hope to do with regard to the mentoring of your students over a monthly period, whatever it might be? I like having little timelines. I know that Richard Eden's one of the people in my division is really great about this. He has kind of different timelines of different projects to see where they are. What I like doing is to seeing it move. I feel like if every week I move the United Way thermometer up a little bit, it makes me feel good that I'm making progress in those big ticket quadrant 2 items. So just imagine that thermometer of the United Way getting to the goal, and you're each day trying to make some. So graphically put that into your calendar program or in your office. There is some value to some procrastination, which I'll talk about in a little bit more in detail towards the end. And that is that if you allow certain things to happen without your input, sometimes they get resolved without your input. So this is in particular if you're in this email squabble with multiple people, sometimes it's better just not to engage and wait and see whether without your help it resolves it. It's always a good thing. Covey talks about priorities versus posteriorities, the things that are most important versus the thing that you either sit on your posterior or they're not as important to you. Okay, so I want just to go back here for a second and get a little feedback. How many of you are daily to-do list people? Okay. I mean, I'm a high J on Myers-Briggs, so I like crossing out things and seeing I've done it, I've done it, I've done it. It really makes me feel good, but I've gotten away from to-do. How many do weekly to-do lists? Okay, and monthly? Okay. One of you asked to use how to use calendar programs better with Outlook for scheduling. I'm not a big Outlook calendar person. I actually use the iCloud calendar. But what I can tell you is that, blocking repeated time events, I think, is what's been most useful for me with regard to time management. And when I have my mentees, I just have them on a schedule, a monthly meeting schedule, where it automatically fills in the blocks for the different people. And that allows me to achieve what I'm here to do, which is to try to mentor people. Okay, your survey. What do you think are or is the greatest non-epic time waster in your life? So, as I said, I've given this seminar many times. Number one always is email. And this was the great program that was supposed to solve all of our time issues. Number two, surfing the web. And number three, excessive meetings. So based on your results, we're going to talk a little bit about email and excessive meetings and a word on surfing the web. So here is one thing that I think that people get sort of stunted by, and that is junk email, right? That they're going through a lot of irrelevant email. And as you can see, the greater than 40% was about 40% of you. That's a lot of junk email to have to get through. So I'd like to give you my perspective on email, and then I will show you my email inbox, if you'd like, and show you how little junk I have. The thing that I did that eliminated 95% of my junk email is that I have a rule that any email that says unsubscribed in it automatically goes to the junk box. It is amazing how well that does for you with eliminating cluttering your email. Now, I do go to the junk email box maybe once or twice a day to make sure that everything, I can tell by who it's from and the topics and everything. It takes me about 15 seconds to eliminate 100 emails that are junk. So I really recommend you set up that up. Now, if you have something from the dean that has at the bottom unsubscribed, you just have to have that person label as non-junk. And then that person won't be blocked or won't be sent. But this really helps a lot. The other thing is that for a while there, I got a lot of Chinese and Arabic emails. And by setting that any non-English character emails went to my junk box, I was able to eliminate all that. So I'm like 95 to 100% junk free. There's very few emails that are in my inbox that are not important for me to look at. Number two, when I'm working, when I'm writing, I turn off all notifications. In fact, I get away from the computer that has my email program. I usually take my laptop out and face away from that computer so that way I can focus. Because if you're constantly responding to every ping and notification, you can't get in the groove. Number three, some people schedule times in the day that they answer emails, 10 and 4, 10 and 2, 10 and 3. I like that. I'm not that type of person. I usually look at email between different assignments. But I think that's a good policy. People have talked about the 3-2-1, 3 times a day, no more than 21 minutes. I do subscribe to the 2-minute rule. If there's an email that comes in that I can get done and not have to deal with it any longer within 2 minutes, I will respond to that in between my assignments. But I also have one extra folder, and that is requires further attention. So if there's an email and it looks like it's going to be an hour-long process, and I've only got 10 minutes to check emails, it goes into my requires further attention box. I get back to it later when I have time, and then I move it back into the inbox. But that's the only extra folder that I have created. I know some people like having all kinds of stacks of folders and everything. To me, the hierarchy of the folders gets a little bit too confusing. So I only have one that I've created. Everything's either in, requires further attention, or junk, about to be deleted. Do not reply to all. When you reply to all, people reply back to you. If it's, what is your calendar availability for this meeting, and you reply to all, then more likely than not, you're going to start getting everyone else's availability. Just reply to the person who's responding. Be concise and succinct. If it's anything that's inflammatory, I usually pick up the phone. I'll just sort of sigh and say, this is not going to be easily resolved by 5 exchanges of emails back and forth. I'm just going to call this person up. And I think that we don't make that decision enough. What you end up doing is responding by email, and then it sort of kind of escalates, and all this nonverbal communication that should be happening doesn't happen, and then you end up in worse. Some people will organize by threads and just read the last installment so they don't have to keep reading the same material. And then I'm a firm believer that I try to read it once and then get done, with the exception of probably about a half a dozen things during my day that I'll put into the requires further attention and get to later in the day. So for those of you who like mnemonics, people talk about do it or delete it or delegate it or defer it, right? So the do it is, I can do this in 2 minutes. I'm going to get it done right now while I have my 20 minutes for dealing with emails. I'm going to delete it. So fortunately for me, everything's in my junk mail. I just, OK, delete. Delegate. So I asked how you were about delegating. The average score for you guys was fair. But this is great because if you're able to assign things to, hopefully you have an administrative assistant or a fellow who may be able to take care of this, or someone else, it's good to be able to pass things over to delegate it or defer it, which is requires additional attention. When I've asked other people who have come to the seminar what their suggestions are, here are a few from the audience, which was open the junk email options dialog, go to the international tab, block most of the encodings but not ASCII or Western European, and possibly not Latin 3 and D and others that would be. So this is how to get rid of the ones that are coming from Cyrillic and you are not familiar with that language, for example. Some people say I specify a set amount of time to deal with email. I create a CC folder for less important emails, or I use instant messaging instead. Just some discussion. So what I'd like to do is to ask people who have been successful in taking over their email box to share with any of their suggestions at this point. Yeah?
I don't put them in a separate folder, but I flag them. I have like a code red for work, and purple for personal further attention.
OK.
But I don't know, sometimes I don't go back to them. I must
OK. Other suggestions for dealing with email that have been worthwhile? How many people schedule a certain time of day that they respond to email? And that works for you? I know one of my colleagues who was a clinical colleague, would have the email response. I check my email at 10 and 4. If this is an emergency, please email me at blah, 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 blah. This is a person who was involved in patient care. Yeah?
I think as time goes on, the expectation to answer emails immediately goes up, especially when all your colleagues are answering within a minute of the receipt of the email. I find this a big problem.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Don't check it. You don't check it, you get, they think you're ignoring it, and not an on-top of things statement.
Right. So that's why some people, as I said, have an automatic response which says, I check emails at blah, 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 and blah, 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 and that way they know, or their colleagues know after dealing with them for a year. You had a point?
Same issue my division is a very strong culture of having a long discussion. If you're not there in the first 5 minutes of that discussion, then you're totally out of it and everything is finished.
Sometimes, as I said, that's good because things can get resolved without you having to engage, Yeah.
I think one thing that took a while to come to terms with is the fact that it's okay to ignore all these emails. But probably a lot of them the ones you would send to junk, where people are asking you to give talks at meetings or submit papers to their journals or consider them as a postdoctoral fellow, and they're clearly not really targeted to you. These are blasts that are going out to everyone, and I used to feel like to be polite. And then a lot of these from China and Asia, whatever, will follow up again and again if you don't respond. I've become okay with just ignoring them or deleting them and or blocking them. But it took me a while because I thought initially I would be polite and
Right. Right.
Things.
Well, you can label them as junk or block the sender if you so desire. All right. Yes, sir.
So with Apple, if you use MacMail,
Yeah.
you create all these filters, very important. Somehow, they don't go to your iPhone, the filter, it's not linked to filters. Anybody knows how your iPhone also knows those junk filters and applies them? Because it's all synchronized, right? So I get a lot of junk mail on your iPhone, then on your computer it just goes.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Yeah. I'll try to figure it out and get you back to you by email. Okay, so other topics. So this is from Wall Street Journal about meetings, right? And they were talking about stop wasting any time. Meetings and emails kill hours, but you can identify the worst offenders. And basically what this article from the Wall Street Journal said was there are too many meetings. Bosses can sometimes dominate people's time with meetings and emails that you feel compelled that you have to respond in a relatively quick manner. There are unnecessary people in the meetings, and there is this fear of not responding. So even in business, this is, I survived another meeting that should have been an email. So this is actually, although it's a joke, I think it has some merit. So in my division in neuroradiology, I try not to have any informational meetings. So if I am telling them about a new service that's opening up, or I'm telling them that the computer system will be down for 4 hours during this period of time, or if I'm informing them of the residents that are going to be rotating through neuroradiology next month, those are informational. I only try to have meetings where I need their input and I need votes. So with this joke here, there is I think, some merit in it. I don't have unnecessary meetings that I can explain and send an informational email to my faculty about. So think about that. Do you need to be there at those meetings, or are they just someone just blabbing to you about the latest quality assurance, regulation, or the latest module you have to take to get through the IRB? So this is eliminate informational meetings. Yeah.
Can I say something about that? I think, doesn't that have something to do with your information intake style? I get more out of meetings than out of a long email because I never read them. And it's just kind of hard for me to take that in. And if someone in 30 minutes can explain to me what they're going to write in an email, I get more out of that than getting the email. But that might just be me because it's my style of taking in information. If I hear it, I'm better rather than when I read it.
That's a good point, and you have to know the people that you're dealing with. Yeah. My only point is that a lot of times the meetings are less efficient than an email just informing you about something. But it's not that I don't have meetings, and I do have meetings, and when I have meetings, there's an agenda that is sent in advance. I tell them we're going to be voting on whether or not we should eliminate MRI scans in the hospital, whatever it might be, that this is why I need you there. I need feedback about whether or not we're going to engage in this particular activity. The other thing is sending surrogates, which I definitely believe in. There are certain parts of our jobs that they don't need you there. They might need someone from your lab there or someone from your clinic there, but they don't necessarily need you there. And if you could be doing your mission-centric hour-long thing while the other person is, representing the division. So this is a quote. Actually, I'm going to go to Gandhi. So I'm a big Gandhi fan, and this is one of the statements that Gandhi makes. A no uttered from deepest conviction is better and greater than a yes merely uttered to please or, what is worse, to avoid trouble. So to me, this is all about being mission-centric. If I say no because it's not mission-centric out of deepest conviction of what I'm here for, I think that's better than showing up and ending up checking my email during the meeting, or surfing the web during the meeting, or playing Words with Friends. So, John, my chairman, Karen now, I would like to take the time to attend the meeting, but it will cut into the time that I have allowed to write that R01 grant that was my main goal for this year. A no uttered from deepest conviction. This is what my goal is for this year. And that's where I'm going to spend the time in. I'm going to tell you no out of deepest conviction rather than just attend it just to please. So try that out. See whether that works. And if it doesn't work, blame Gandhi. Yeah, not me.
When you run meetings, do you have the attendees leave their personal devices at the door?
So I'm sure, like you, I have a wide variety of full professors, associate professors, and assistant professors in my meetings, and I treat them as all full professors, adults. And I don't ask them to do anything like that.
Right, so they're checking their emails under the table.
That is what they're going to do. They're going to do. I'm going to try to demonstrate good behavior and good habits myself. Okay. So, suggestions from previous attendees said, I try to schedule all of my conferences and meetings on one day. That's my meeting day, so that way I get it all done and I'm focused on the meeting and I know that I'm not going to be able to get to the lab in that period of time. So that's one suggestion. Some people block their calendar with no meeting days, and I think that's fine as long as you're blocking it to do mission-centric quadrant 2 type stuff. Schedule at a time when you'll be less productive anyway. So, if you're not a morning person, and you have the control over having meetings that are not that critical to you at that point, that would be fine. Give assistant rules for meeting about how many, if your assistant's running your calendar, how many meetings you allow per day. And this is, I've taken to just doing doodle polls now, because to go back and forth with everyone replying to all about when they're available versus just doing the doodle poll seems to me it seems more efficient to do it this way. So I agree with this one. Other suggestions from the crowd about meetings and how they're handling their meetings. The one thing that's great about having an agenda with, we're going to be voting on this, is that if you have a group of people that is largely introverts, it gives them time to think about it and to process it so that when they show up at the meeting, they're going to participate. Because if you just all of a sudden put it out there at a meeting, without an agenda in advance, many times you're going to lose the content from the introverts, because often the extroverts are going to be kind of dominating. So, meetings, how you run your meetings. Any good ideas about running meetings that you would share with the rest of the crowd? Running meetings, yeah.
Tell them at the beginning I'm staying till 3 o'clock because I have another meeting to go to. And if it's going over, that's it.
I think it's very respectful of time, and I try. My goal at all my meetings is to end before is to finish early. And in fact, I walk out of my chair and I'm like, well, we're done. I only need 20 minutes of your time. You got an extra 40 minutes. Yeah.
I started a new technique in some situations where at the beginning of the meeting, I said, we're going to be, we have a lot to get through in X amount of time. I really want to only spend, say, 15 or 20 minutes on a discussion about this topic. And I'm setting a timer. And everybody knows it. And when the timer goes off, I go, okay,
time's up.
Yeah.
You know, like when you go to your psychologist, okay, time's up.
Right.
See you next week.
Sometimes in the retreat type stuff, it's good to have a timekeeper. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's what I'm hearing from you. It's like
Boundaries.
this email life that we're leading is creating new boundaries or less boundaries.
Yes, sir.
In-person versus teleconference versus mixed. In terms of efficiency, what one should tolerate. Someone's dog is barking in the background. Could you please mute it? I'm not sure anything gets done through these teleconferences. Although it does allow you to do other things while you're
So I would say if the part of the goal of the meetings is to have a sense of teamwork and inclusion, then having someone who's participating, even if they're distracted or having to do it by remote, sets you set your priority in that way, if that's the goal. There was another comment. Someone over here? No. Okay.
I think one of the most important things for running a meeting is to make sure that someone writes minutes and distributes them to everybody, because otherwise you do the same thing over and over.
Yeah, I would say that having an administrative assistant who can be asked to leave if there is a particular confidential thing that you want to talk about, but having someone who's taking minutes is a good idea. Okay, so we in radiology are a little different than a lot of the other specialties in that most of us are on a one-day-a-week academic time. We are sort of guaranteed 20% academic time for clinical radiologists, so it comes out to 1 day a week, not I'm off service for a month. So it's for those of you who do have a similar situation where you have an academic time or a block of time that's assigned, one of the best things you can do is plan for that time the night before about what you're going to be doing, rather than show up and say, all right, now what am I going to do today? Let's see what's the guy. So I don't plan with a daily calendar, but I do plan what I'm going to do on my academic day the night before. So that way I know these are the things I'm going to try to accomplish in this period of time. And I don't just plop down and say, all right, what are the high priority things today? And then, have Jim Zinwright come in and say, you want to go for coffee? So proper prior planning prevents poor performance, right? So plan for those days that you do have the block of time and spend it in the best way you can. And some people will say tackle the top ticket items, toot sweet, so at the beginning. Now, I am a morning person. I wake up at 6 o'clock. I'm ready to run for an hour, and then have breakfast, and then get into work or whatever it might be. I'm a morning person, and so I like to tackle the things first. If you are the type of person who are most efficient and get things done between 10 p.m. and midnight, don't eat the biggest frog first. Wait, until then. So recognize your own talents and your own skills as far as when you are the most productive. So decide what you're going to do first. Have everything you need at hand before you begin. So it's like a surgeon, right? He's got all the utensils and tools and different equipment all available in advance. Create a comfortable workspace, and then dive in. This is something that I think is very scary, because whenever I do these seminars, there's a lot of people who are here. This says, what is the smallest block of time you need before you will dive into one of your big, high-impact projects? And a lot of people will say here that if I've got 45 minutes to a couple hours, okay? But if I only have a half an hour, I won't really work on the grant, or I won't work on that revision to the manuscript, or I won't work on the big ticket item. That's problematic. And when I said at the beginning that I'd like you to become more productive with 15-minute blocks of time, it's because if you say, oh, I only got 15 minutes, I might as well surf the web and see how the Ravens did, and see where that trade worked out, or, Trump's, oh my God, I got to see what Trump's numbers are. That's not that you're going to waste 15-minute blocks, and if you get in the habit of wasting 15-minute blocks, you end up with 45 minutes out of your day wasted, which is 6 weeks in the year, right? So it would be nice. I'm not saying, all right, I got 5 minutes, let me go write my grant. No. But if you can get to the 15-minute mark and say, I got 15 minutes, I'm going to try to do it, I think that's important. So how do you do that? How do you get into it in 15 minutes? And for those of you who have come to any of my seminars, you're about to experience the Yousem moment. This is me dancing. Pretty bad, because I haven't danced in months. If I dance every day or every other day, I could probably get and then do the moon dance, the moonwalk, right? If you do these things every day, you can get into it much quicker. So if I started dancing right now, by maybe hour 2, I would start having some rhythm to the music. But for the first hour, it ain't going to happen because I haven't been doing it. So this leads to the book that many of you who have embarked on any of the WAGs that Kim Skorupski has organized, writer accountability groups. She hands out this book. It's called How to Write a Lot. It's a great little book. Basically, it has one lesson: write every day. What he shows in both publications and science, etc., is that those of you who are out there who are binge writers, as he calls them, the people who say, I'm going to write it on Saturday, I'll block 8 hours and I'm going to write the grant on Saturday with 8 hours. Those people who do binge writing are a lot less productive in manuscripts, grants, etc., than people who write every day for shorter periods of time. And part of it is the getting into it. So it's a really great book. Basically teaches you how to write a lot by writing every day and getting in the habit and making it a habit. Again, we're talking about making habits. And when you do that, it's like me dancing. Within 3 minutes, if I was dancing frequently, I could get into it. So how many of you, when you first sit in front of the computer to write a paper, sort of like stare at the screen, have a hard time kind of getting started? I don't have that at all. I get there and I'm like writing immediately because I write every day. It's real easy for me to get back into it, just like if I was dancing every day, it would be very easy for me to start doing the moonwalk. So again, I'm happy to loan people the book. It's a quick read, probably 2-hour read. And there are some other lessons in there. But I can be in the 15 minutes and jump right into a paper. The one thing that I would say, let me just give a little graphic here. This is the different zones. You want to not be in the drone zone where you're like foggy and you're not getting very much done. You want to be in the flow. You don't want to be panicked and not getting much accomplished. Different zones. Remember the Romulan zone and sectors for Star Trek. So here's my suggestions. Again, like I said, I'm trying to get to 100 suggestions for you. We're in the 40s and 50s now. I keep it open. My manuscripts and grants, I don't close on my laptop or my computer, so that if I go to the laptop, all I have to do is to hit that, and it's open for it. I don't have to search for it. I don't have to hit File Open. I don't have to do it. It's open. I'm working on it, and it eliminates some of the inertia of getting to it. Where did I put that document? What I'm working on is open all the time. And I try to do the fun tasks. So, you know, if I've only got 10, 15 minutes and I know that I'm not going to be able to get into it that much, I'll say, you know, maybe I should just find some of the figures, I'll, either through the internet or my own work, create some figures, work on an Excel table or whatnot. I also, have things that I do that are just sort of, these are my 10 to 15-minute tasks that I have that are ongoing. Most of these are writing little case reviews. Case reviews are really, relatively mindless, and you can get into them really quickly. And, these are the type of things that I'll assign to residents and whatnot. So revising their papers doesn't take a long time when you're doing something like a case review. If you look at my desk, this is typical of my desk, you know, I got my journals right there. So when I have 10, 15 minutes free, I can just open the journal and read an article. What I usually do is I read it in front of my computer because I want to make a PowerPoint slide of the latest thing in the literature that I'm reading in my journal. So I'm trying to do both at the same time. So read the article, oh, that would be good for my brain tumor talk. So let me, you know, summarize this in my brain tumor talk. So keep the journals up. Here's one of my this is a case review series, one of my case review books. You know, the case review books is not something where I'd sit down for 8 hours and do one case after another after another. It's the type of thing you could do with, you know, 15, 20-minute blocks of time. Write a case, write 4 questions, Q&A, you know, multiple choice questions for education purposes or for the resident quiz or what it might be. I've also got my big rubber band thing that I can play with. So when you do have that 50-minute block or that 30-minute block or the 45-minute block, you know, again, you want to get into that flow zone and you don't want to be dinged out of it with your email. I used to have to do this. Now I'm much better with myself. I used to, when I had a pager, now everything's on the iPhone, I would give the pager to my administrative assistant and I'd say, will you answer the calls? If it's anything really important, just knock on my door. I'm going to be writing. For a while, I used to write at the in the School of Nursing, just to get away from my office. Because one of the time sinks that I have as a division chief is that people are always looking on, you know, knocking on the door, want to talk to you about stuff. If I want to get things done, I have to be away a little bit. So I would like hide out at the School of Nursing and do my writing on my laptop there. Again, what's the right time for you for maximal productivity? And then I would say that the other thing that seemed to suck a lot of my time was social hour around coffee. And so I had to get into the habit of closing the door to my office rather than keeping it open. It's got good parts and bad parts, but if the door was open, someone was going by on their way to coffee. Hey, you want to go to coffee with me? And it's like, yeah, I do, but, you know. So what do other people do when they only have like 15 minutes or 30 minutes of time to be more productive in that block rather than having to wait for 45 to 60-minute blocks? They will do things like edit manuscripts, review articles, use a reference manager to organize. This is from other people's suggestions. That's when they check their email. They'll do stuff with their students. They'll mock out tables or figures. They'll organize their calendar. They will take time to meditate, or that's when they'll do their exercise, or words with friends. Again, how to write a lot. Paul Sylvia. He's a psychologist from UNC, I believe. I said I'd get back to delegate. Yeah. Usually I'm only working on 2 or 3 at a time. Yeah. You know, usually a trainee's something I'm usually doing. So delegation. So I think that we who have administrative assistants often don't utilize them to their fullest. And when you give a challenging task to your administrative assistant, I think you should think of it as an opportunity for them to grow and to do something that is more exciting and more valuable rather than you know, giving them somewhat menial things. So I'm, you know, a big proponent of having, you know, my administrative system. You know, we have a Johns Hopkins Neuroradiology website, and having her kind of be the manager of the website, you kind of, you know, oh, I'm in charge of this. And it's kind of nice, you know, updating, putting in the PubMed, new PubMed stuff, et cetera, things that otherwise I or another one of my faculty member or IT people would have to do. That's an example of something that she really gets a lot of pleasure out of. I say to her, if you need to take any courses on web design or web, by all means take them, and we'll give you the time off, even if we have to send you somewhere. So it empowers them. But when you're doing a lot of kind of menial type stuff that could be done by someone else, I think that you're not using your time as well. So when things get serious, Kirk gets the dramatic facial lighting. Everyone else has to suck it up. So who in your group is the best at this? So the other example that I will give you is that I went through the 6-year Interflex program at the University of Michigan for BSMD. One of the things that they cut out in the 2 years was biostatistics. So I never really learned biostatistics, and it's kind of hampered me along the way. So I can do it, but it would take me hours to do it, as opposed to including a statistician on my manuscripts and having them take 15 minutes to do it. So the delegation is also the type of thing that is saving you time, but also is a possible way that you can collaborate with other people. So think of it not as delegation, as collaboration with colleagues. So yeah, you might be able to do the visual field analysis for the ophthalmologic exam, but if you included a neuro-ophthalmologist on the manuscript who could do it in that amount of time, why not? Again, I wouldn't call it delegation, I would call it collaboration. So think about that. Is this something you can help me? So I'll come to my administrative people or my other colleagues. Is this something you can help me with? I'm really not very good at doing the analysis of the pulse sequence diagram. I'd like to include you on this project. And that might be trainees. But just make sure that you're giving them the appropriate information, authority to get it done, the passwords, et cetera, to execute it well. So delegation's really helpful if you do it well. So who is this like, oh, this is like second nature. It's like the dancing, right? For the statistician, it's like dancing. They could do it in 10 minutes. You would be sitting there scratching your head about which test to do, et cetera. So outsourcing is collaboration. Whose strike zone does this fall into? Who can do this so much faster than me? And this also pertains to your home life. So again, if I had a lot of joy in gardening, I could probably go out there to the garden, and it would take me 8 hours to plant a few bulbs. Or if it doesn't bring me a lot of joy, and I can hire someone or outsource someone to do it, assuming you have the appropriate resources to do so, why waste the time? This is my motto, is, yeah, I could probably change the light bulb, but I'll get an electrician. Joking. So I want to talk a little bit about multitasking. So how many of you believe that humans cannot multitask? How many of you believe that humans can multitask? Okay, good. I'm glad it's half and half. I'm a firm believer in, I don't know where, the octopus, you got all these tentacles going out, about trying to get things done at the same time, multiple things done at the same time. These are generally low priority items. It's not as if I can watch TV and write the grant at the same time. But for low priority items and activities, I think you can do multitasking. I'll give some examples of that are relevant. I already told you one of the things that I do, which is reading a journal article and making PowerPoints of it at the same time to fit into my lectures. So that's one thing I think about. This is a little under-the-desk cycle. And for those of us in radiology who are sitting there reading the things, you can be doing this under the desk pretty easily without it changing your voice. Unfortunately, I am an incredibly heavy sweater, I discovered. And within 10 minutes of this, I was like soaked. And the resident's going, Dr. Yousem, do you have a fever? I'm like, no. But having this at your desk, getting a little bit of exercise at the same time that you're doing some of your work is fine. My secretary now bounces. She's got like this thing on her chair, that helps your core. So as I'm talking to her, she's bouncing away. I'm like, constantly. So here's my multitask thing. Okay, we're trying to save time. We're trying to do things at once. So I plop up my laptop on the treadmill, and I watch CME as I do my treadmill. Now, usually it's when I'm just doing jogging, not full force running. But, I can get CME done, watch the CME. It's not too difficult. You can listen to the iPod, the newscast from your society. Rather than read your journal, you can listen to it on the iPod. Again, when I'm reading my journals, I'm usually on the recumbent bike, and I'm reading the thing while I'm just doing that. So, truth, again, I don't recommend this, but I have Dragon Naturally Speaking on my cell phone, and it's very easy for me to dictate first drafts of manuscripts while I drive with a little headphone, and it does pretty well. Dragon Naturally, it's a free app, and let me see if I can do a demonstration here.
What's the name?
Dragon Naturally Speaking. Of course, if I could find it on my cell phone, it would be... Anyway, you just tap it and talk, and it does the dictation for you, so you don't have to write a paper or type a paper. You could be dictating a paper. It's very simple. You can get that for your office computer as well if you're not such a fast typist. So answering emails, calling mom while I walk the dog, grading multiple choice questions while I'm watching CNN. When I'm at a QA meeting, I'm always thinking, how am I going to make this into a manuscript somehow? So here's what I call academic twofers. And I've gotten criticism from this from people who say, you have to separate your vacation and your free time from your work time. So here's what I do. When I am going to the Society of Neuroradiology meeting in Los Angeles, I will contact my friends at UCLA and say, I'm going to be in Los Angeles at the ASNR meeting. Would you like me to give the grand rounds or, talk to your neuroradiology people for a, morning lecture? So most of the time they'll say yes. And that means that you've got two lines on your CV, right? You've got invited lecture, and you're talking at the meeting. So when you're going to a meeting in a particular place and there is free time, why not ask your mentor or to arrange for you to give a talk at the local university about your work? It's a visiting professorship. It's good for your CV. So, or, board review, whatever it might be. Arrange a journal club that you've organized that, whatever it might be. Anytime I interviewed for jobs, I always offered to give a lecture. I wanted to demonstrate my educational prowess, but I also wanted invited lecture. University of Virginia. Writing a paper, prepare the PowerPoint, writing a grant, you know as well as I do that background and significance thing that you've just written for that grant could potentially be beginnings of a review article. I'm not sure where we are with online as far as whether or not that could be used for your promotion, but I would imagine that if you had a website on hepatic tumors that was getting an incredible number of hits in public or otherwise, such that yours was the definitive website on hepatic tumors, where that would have some clout at a promotions committee discussion. So this is an email from me. Eric, would there be an opportunity for one or more of my faculty to give the morning lecture to your neuroradiology division fellows or residents during the week of the ASNR? I have several who are doing cutting-edge research in resting state fMRI and 7T MRS and PET in Alzheimer's that would like the opportunity to talk to the Northwestern academic program, even if it's just a divisional talk or lunchtime chat. This is me, as the division chief, advocating for my people for when they are in Chicago for the ASNR meeting. Dave, hi, Dr. A talk by Dr. Yousem would be great. The following times are available around the ASNR. Zoom, zoom, zoom. So Twofer, an academic twofer, they're going to the meeting anyway. Why not give a talk at the local? Dr. Heron, Francois Zeron. I have a faculty member named Harris Sarah who's doing amazing work in resting state fMRI here at Hopkins. He will be in Paris Wednesday, June 19th to June 23rd at p.m. Would you be able to arrange a talk for him to give a talk at your institution while he's in the area? He would like to share his work. No honorarium required. He's going to be there anyway. He's giving a talk at one institution in Paris. So I'm, as his division chief, saying, why not another institution? He's going to be there, right? It would be a pleasure to welcome Monsieur Harris on the imagery department. The best moment is this thing. Dr. Heron, as luck would have it, another member of my division, Islam Izvadak, will be traveling your way July 9th to 11th. Islam specialized in performing DTI of the spinal cord. Now, Islam had a stopover in Paris on her way going home to Turkey, okay, on vacation. So this is where it gets a little bit. So if you don't want to have your vacations interfered with academic stuff, etc., fine, I understand that. But we would be honored to welcome Islam Izvadak to present her work about spinal cord. The talk will be organized on this and an abstract of a presentation, etc., etc. So this was a stopover for vacation. Now, for those of us who have children who are of the age that sleep until 10 or 11 a.m. when you're on vacation in Puerto Rico, I would organize a morning lecture for me at 8 to 9 a.m. Maybe not interfere with my family time, just my wife time. So this is where it gets a little bit of the gray zone, and they tell me, don't do that. Separation of work and life. But anyway, you get the idea. Oh, there's another one. Okay, so I organized a stroke seminar at the Roentgen Ray. It was hard to present so much controversy important. More, I think we hit the exact right mix. I wonder if we should offer Mauricio an opportunity to have the AJNR publish the synopsis of our panel discussion. So this was, again, a twofer. They were giving a talk about the current state of stroke with stroke imaging. And then I contact the editor of our journal and say, we just did a seminar on stroke imaging. How would you like a nice review article on it? Here's the material. Here are the slides. Are you interested as an invited lecturer? Let me echo with David's opinion, and let me thank you all for doing this. If you think that you can get a review article by July 1st, I'll be more than glad to consider publication. This is what I mean by 2 for 1 being efficient. So when my children are now 26, 24, and 21, so this is no longer applicable. When they were in their teens, I would hire them to help me around the office at Hopkins and pay them. And what I would say, the reason was because they were going to come for me for the money anyway, right? Dad, you know, when I go to the movies. And I was like, so paid for them to come into the office. They saw what I did and, you know, recognized. Unfortunately, none of them want to go into medicine now. But, you know, it's a bonding experience. Then you have lunch with them. You take them out to the, you know, the flamers. The other thing is I love taking long plane rides. I would probably just go back and forth because I get so much work done on the plane. It's like, you know, unfortunately now they offer Wi-Fi. It's like, before that I could like do some really great writing in the airplane. For those of you biking to work, I think is good exercise, texting, walking, etc. So if I did have more free time, I'd spend it, most people said, with family or significant others. I just want to emphasize one thing. When you do have the free time, most people don't think about the mission-centric stuff. You know? So how many of you would say the mission-centric stuff was my family or my significant others? It probably should be. So when you're thinking about what you're here, maybe this should be more on your statement than this stuff. Do more research, right? So just think about it. What I think about is when I get a cancellation of a meeting, it's like, awesome. You know, the meeting was canceled. Now I can work on my book. Now I can work on my grant. It's like, that's my mission-centric stuff. Not, all right, well, now I'm going to go out for lunch. For those of you who have the possibility of this being true, because I don't know your clinical service or your research or your lab meetings or whatever, I really encourage my faculty to arrange their schedules so that they are not spending extra time in traffic. So personally, I know that if I'm on the JFX by 6:55, I can zip down there with no problem. But if I'm on the JFX at 7:15 at Falls Road, I'm going to end up wasting 20 minutes. And same thing with coming home. I no longer have children in the house, as you've heard. So my wife is fine that I leave Hopkins around 6:30 to avoid the traffic that's going to be there at 4:35. But in radiology department, because we all have workstations at home, we can read from home just as easily as we can read from work. And one of my faculty members who lives in Annapolis, who has a 75-minute commute back both ways, I say, just work at home. Doesn't make sense. I also found going to the club and driving to the club was inertia, so I bought all my own you should see my basement. It's like an exercise, so that way I just go downstairs, do the exercise, and come back. Move your office away. So this is one of the suggestions that other people suggested, that when they're in the flow of traffic of people coming back and forth, they get so many interruptions that they found that it was really a problem in getting work done. So they actually asked to have their office moved another part of the department in a different building. If that's what it takes for you, you got to do it. Automatic payments, hybrid cars, no gas time. So the other thing is stop studying the small stuff. I mean, there's a lot of times where I say, all right, I can bring my C game to this. This is not critical, or this is not mission-centric. I'm just going to pass. I'm going to do a passable job on this particular thing. I think that when you put the pressure on yourself to do everything at A+ work, as opposed to saying, this is really not that critical for me. I'm not really that concerned about what the kindergartners are going to think about me when I give my talk. It might be the thing. This is from Michael J. Fox. I am careful not to confuse excellence with perfection. Excellence I can reach for. Perfection is God's business. So know when enough is enough. This is true with publications. I'm one of these people who really just puts the kibosh on draft after draft after draft of a manuscript. I say, we are at a publishable moment right now. This is publishable. It's not perfect, and we could, translate that Swahili and get that last reference in to the manuscript, or we can just submit it at this point, and it's going to get accepted. So if you continually submit, try to make it perfect, you're in God's business as opposed to just making it excellent. With regard to that, and this is another time waster I find, is that I will always send out a draft to co-authors with a deadline. We plan to submit this on Friday at 5. If you have any revisions, please submit it before Friday at noon. If you don't submit any revisions, we assume that you accept it as it is. Because if you just let it happen, then people get busy. It ends up in their to-do box or requires further attention box, and you end up spending an additional 4 or 5 weeks waiting for people to respond to you about it. So whenever you send a copy out that's close to finish, give people a deadline. So some of the attendees, they hire people to do their tasks. They will use the School of Public Health for statistics or whatnot, or to do home chores, outsource things, food services or cook in bulk. Blue Apron apparently provides the ingredients and the recipes. You don't have to do anything except follow the recipe. They give you all the ingredients. Pasamante. Again, virtual assistant from remote to do some tasks. Anyone try this? The virtual assistant? Someone in India doing some of your tasks? Cheers. And then for those people whose English language is not their primary language and have difficulty writing, there's lots of people who are willing, who are the scientific background to write manuscripts or revise manuscripts for you. So that's available as well. So deadlines. So deadlines are important. That motivates it when we say, all right, I've got to end at 1:30. I know I got to end at 1:30. So having deadlines, I think, is very important with regard to your manuscripts or other thing. And the other thing is having rewards for completion of your tasks on time. So I think at this point I'll give 5 minutes to hear other people's suggestions. I can pull up the website of what people said were their best ideas. I mean, just while I do this, I'm just going to get my email so you can see how little junk I usually have. Yeah, suggestions.
I have kind of a question.
Question.
So I've read a lot, or I'm familiar with a lot of these books, and maybe it's a waste of time to read them because you could be doing other more productive work. My question is about project management.
Yeah.
So let's say you have a paper. You have the data, it's analyzed, you're ready to sit down and write a paper. I'm the kind of person where I say, oh, I need 4 hours to sit down and start working on this. A lot of people will say, estimate how much time you think it would take. If you go by 15-minute increments, then how many 15-minute sessions? And my problem is, I always underestimate the amount of time that I think it. I mean, my wife will tell you, I'll say, I'm going to switch a light bulb. I'll be back down the stairs in 5 minutes, and I'm still up there. Damn it, it won't fit. And, you know, like.
Right.
So what advice do you have or others in the audience about estimating the amount of time accurately or more accurately of how long it would take to complete a task? And obviously only you would know best, but are there ways of figuring out how to do that and how to break it down into, okay, it's Tuesday, it's my 4th day working on this, this is where I should be at, as opposed to me saying, I'm still writing the introduction.
Okay. Do you want to say?
I feel for him. If you're writing a grant, your 50 minutes doesn't work for me. I need at least 50 minutes to catch up where I left, because you have the previous version, you're resubmitting, you have your EndNote file, PowerPoint, email it to the student with the data.
And you have that problem even if you're writing it every day?
I'm sorry?
Do you have that problem where it all remaining if you're writing every day, or is it you're leaving it for a couple weeks and you're getting back to it?
Let's say if I do other things for 4 hours, I need to go back in.
Oh, okay.
So those 15 minutes, for me, what works is filling out forms or signing offers or all these little administrative things. And once you clear that out, you feel relief, and then you can do that. So it's really, sometimes it gets very complicated, and you cannot leave the things open on your desktop. It's going to crash out of memory and all these things. The other thing I think is efficient is organize your desktop or your files like you would do something else. Don't put everything in a drawer so it's out of sight. That increase the efficiency tremendously.
Well, that's like me keeping it open. It's like you saying, don't put it in a drawer. For me, it's open, available all the time.
Close it on the desktop in a folder labeled as red, and that's the thing you open, and it's all there.
That works too. So in answer to your question, what I would just say is that when you do it consistently as opposed to binging, it'll be faster for you to do, okay? And then you can probably estimate, when you know what you're going to say, how long it takes you to write a paragraph, right? When I do a paper with a trainee, I give them the outline of what the paper is going to look like even before we do the project. I'm like, here's this, here's this, here's this, here's the materials, man, this is what we're going to do, I don't know what the results are going to be, and here's what the discussion is going to look like. You guys start working on the, on the literature search, et cetera, on this topic, et cetera, while we're collecting the data, et cetera. So I already know what it's going to be, and I think that while I can estimate it for you, I would say that when you're writing consistently on a daily basis and everything, whatever I told you, it'll be half as fast. It'll be twice as fast, because you're just going to get right into it faster. Yeah.
So some of us work at multiple sites.
Yeah.
Office. One of those things. If I have to be actually at base in my office to be writing, it's not going to happen. Does anybody have in the Hopkins system a suggestion for the virtual office that works? Sometimes you can cloud it. Even that is like there's
Yeah. So all of my material is on a server that I can get to from any computer in our department. I can log into my part of the server. Is that not universal here?
The virtual desktop.
JH box, have it sort of lodged online in a password protected, and you can get to it from any location. It's a website, the secure behind the VPN website that is like storing it on the cloud, basically.
It's like Dropbox, but it's secure because
Yeah, but when I see that, it's mine.jh.edu. Thank you. I know that one.
Okay. In the back.
With the material, the content of your presentation, will we have access to that somehow, whether it's PDF or...
The PDF, how many of you got the PDF of my presentation beforehand? If you didn't, then it must be that I didn't have your email, so please just come over to me and I'll send you the PDF. But it was sent last night, hopefully. Yeah, suggestion.
All the time. I have a desktop in my office, and wherever I go in the world or anywhere, I just type into my note desktop, and that's why I'm always at my desk.
Remote desktop, yep. Real good. Other suggestions? Yeah.
So my lab started using what's called Slack. It's actually one of the hottest unicorn companies in Silicon Valley.
SLED?
Slack.
Slack.
Yeah.
Okay.
It combines messaging and group chatting. So within my group, we don't use emails anymore. I mean, we use emails only when we include people outside
Okay.
the group. And that's,
So it's like instant messaging almost?
it's very, very useful.
Okay. So develop that in your group to communicate more freely. Other suggestions?
When I was first starting out, I went through a similar sort of thing, and the speaker suggested you establish your absence. And she'd given us an example that she had this collaboration required her 1 day a week to be working across town. And everyone just got used to her not being there that day of the week, and eventually that grant ran out, and she no longer was going there. But she would just go work at the library and not show up, to her main office those days. Now those are the days where she would do her big projects.
Exactly.
And if you can train people with the expectation that you're not going to be there for certain large blocks of time, for whatever reason, you can just go and do the things you really care about, which actually, I thought was a marvelous thing
Right,
to do.
right. Or close your door and just say, put a little sign up. We'll be available at 1 p.m. Thank you all for coming.